Hello, I just wanted to say good evening, but it's right in the morning, so very crypto-like good morning, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Anika, and we are going to speak about the past and present of art on the blockchain, and there's Simon Denny. We have one guest joining us online. It's Simon Denny, writer and curator. I'm pretty sure you all know him, and I guess some of you have seen the exhibition he curated in 2018. It was at the Schinkel Pavilion one last year. I think it's very loud. Is it loud? No? Okay, good. And one last year at Hamburger Kunstverein, so he's both an artist and a curator, and he was doing art and curating like very early on, and his first big NFT project was .com Seance last year. I guess we're going to hear more about that. And to my right, we have Johanna Neuschäfer from Office Impart, and she's also part of the Art NFT Tech Report, which they've done this year, right? 2022 is this year, exactly. So we're going to hear many insights, because they asked collectors why they actually collect NFTs, art NFTs. And Office Impart is also a new gallery model, and they've done the exhibition titled From Net Art to Art NFT earlier this year, together with Panke Gallery, and part of the exhibition were, for example, Sarah Friend, and Sarah Friend is an artist. She was also early on doing things on the blockchain, and what I really loved, she tweeted last week that she doesn't want to be a blockchain saint anymore. So I'm very curious to hear what that means, and I guess you all know her project Lifeforms, and maybe it has traveled through some of your wallets. And then we have Harm van den Dorpel. He's an artist, curator, theorist, like everything, and I think without Harm van den Dorpel, this space we're seeing right now would be very different. He helped build it and shape it with Left Gallery. Now he's also working with Folia. His Mutant Garden Cedar is probably one of the most important art NFT projects from 2021, and yeah, I am pretty sure you're all familiar with him. So, Simon, can you hear us? And can we hear Simon as well? Simon, can you say something?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, all of you were on the block doing stuff on the blockchain. You good? Okay, perfect. So all of you were doing things like I think you sold your first NFT to a museum in 2015. So you've been around a very long time, and all of you. How did you get started? How was the space like in 2015 compared to now?
Wow, quite a bit different. And I mean, for one, they weren't called NFTs yet, but there was this notion that you could maybe store some information on a blockchain that was not money, which at that time we used. I started Left Gallery in 2015. We closed it this year. Left Gallery, we sold things that we called downloadable objects. Is this better? Okay. Yeah, so in 2015 we started an online gallery where we sold downloadable objects, for lack of a better term. I started this with my partner who is in the audience, Paloma. And we called it downloadable objects to kind of make people feel that files are things, that they exist. They're not some ephemeral thing. And with that also that you could own them and you could purchase them. We worked with a startup called Ascribe, and they in a very pioneering way managed to store some more information on the Bitcoin blockchain besides money. It was a bit, they did a great job, but it was a bit like hacking the Bitcoin blockchain because it was not the original intention for it. Also, the Bitcoin blockchain wasn't technically really capable to store that much information, so they pivoted to become a database company and Left Gallery. We moved to Ethereum. I wrote my first ERC 721 smart contracts. Also, I made a lot of mistakes. Then I had to wrap the contracts, and it's all very complicated. And Left Gallery was going on. Once in a while we sold something. Some months nothing happened. And it was a bit sometimes between proof of concept or an actual thing. And then basically, last year, it was like waking up and seeing like, oh, we sold it all. Like what happened? Like how is this possible? And yeah, that's where we are now, I think. The artists we worked with were really not coming from Web3 space, because in 2015 there was no Web3 space, or at least a lot smaller. And yeah, that's where, yeah. Maybe you want to add, or?
Well, I guess I'll add that my first blockchain artwork was in 2017, before the creation or formalization, at least, of the ERC 721 that we know now. And it was using a fungible token and responding kind of satirically in game form to the bull run of 2017. And I think that maybe I'll just add that there's a funny feeling where history repeats itself, with crazy hype cycles around different token standards. So now I'm often wondering what will be the next one.
Maybe Simon, would you like to add something? Because you've curated your first exhibition in 2018 and now the second one in 2021. For example, were the reactions different from the audience, from media, and then also with doing art? So with you, we have two perspectives, artist and curator.
Yeah, cool. Can you guys hear me? I think there's a small delay, so I'm just going to talk, and then hopefully 5 seconds later, you'll hear it, but tell me if it's a disaster. So yeah, I came to making art about blockchains in museums and galleries in 2015-16, and the 2016 just curated Berlin Biennale. Actually in Berlin was the first time I kind of showed about chains and their potential, I don't know, political futures and aesthetic futures. And then I was so excited to see artists like Harm and Sarah working with blockchains as a medium. So I got into curating, and I curated a show also in Berlin in 2018 called Proof of Work, which Harm's work was in, and many other artists' work was in. Also, I didn't totally curate it. I kind of initiated it and tried to, I guess, have other people's voices involved in deciding who and what should show where as well, in a way to try and mimic the decentralized nature of blockchains. Yeah, in 2021, I curated another show in Hamburg called Proof of Stake, and Sarah's project Lifeforms was in that as well. So I've weaved in and out a lot of the projects in the space, but most recently I did .com sales, which was a kind of an NFT project with a collaboration with the artist Gile Podolsky and an AI image generation company, where we tried to bring back dead .com crash companies to life. It was really interesting aesthetically because Gile was involved in doing the cat for CryptoKitties. So for me, it was like a kind of a way of connecting Web 1 ideas to Web 3 aesthetics, and also to try different ways of using collective ownership and stuff. So each of these companies that we resurrected through redesigning logos or were then kind of propositions for future collective DAOs or something like that. So yeah, that's been my involvement today.
Thank you, Simon. And Johanna, you've done the art NFT report, and I think 300 to 400 people replied to your study or went through the study. It took like 10 to 15 minutes, and I guess it would be very interesting to hear from you what the key findings are. Why do people actually collect art?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm from the other perspective, from working with people who, of course, artists that work with blockchain technology in their work, but also people that started to engage in building up collections in that community. And therefore, we founded the Art and Tech Report 2 years ago, and did a first report about online art buying, which had nothing to do with digital pieces. It was rather about the art buying process in a digitalizational approach, and it was a natural point to really have a closer look on the motivations why and how art NFTs have been collected or are collected. And it's an online survey. We have 4 women that did it here in Berlin, and you can all check it out. It's a website, arttechreport.com. And you see the whole the report there, and you can download the full version. And on the report, you also find already key findings, like the things that we thought were really interesting and we wanted to highlight. And the first and the most important is, and that was gave us a very positive impact, was that the main motivation to buy art NFTs or buy art NFTs is because of the appreciation of the arts. And we also found out that speculation is less the motivation. And that, of course, was for us, working as a gallery, working with artists, underlining the fact that the blockchain technology is a way now for artists that work with digital media for a long time, or with digital technologies for a long time, now have a way to exhibit, but also to be on a market. And that was actually, I think, for us, the first and most important message is that, and of course we always refer to art NFTs, and that, this was one of the main key findings. I also have more, but...
Tell us more.
Okay, I can tell you more. There's one, of course, the one with speculation. It's very important that speculation is less a motivation factor, as well as being part of as having behind that motivations what the NFTs can do. So that was also really interesting, that it was more about being following the artists. Communities, of course, is a very big point. Communities play a role, and I think it is very interesting if you look at the art sector in general, that this will be something, I think, that will change also the traditional perspective on arts in a way, good or bad, we can discuss. Another thing is the curational part. So there were a lot of people who said that they would buy more, or that would be encouraged to actually start buying, because we also had a couple of people who haven't started but wanted to start to buy art as NFTs. But they didn't know, they weren't happy with the curation. And I think this is also showing a lot how the market, or how the NFT sector is evolving, that we have much more curation involved. And that also brings me to a show that we did. Anika was just saying and talking about it. We did a show with 9 artists, Sarah and Harm, both were part of it. And I think it's important to have curation in the art NFT space. What, in any direction?
And how do you, thank you for sharing the insight. I think that's very important to know that people actually buy art because they want to own it. But that's also my impression when I look at projects your project is traveling, one is upcoming, we're going to speak about that soon. But when I go through wallets, go through collections, I see that people really hold the work by Harm, especially Mutant Garden Cedar, but also the Flag project you have done, or the .com seance. There's hardly any trading, which is maybe sad for you because no secondary royalties, but then I think it's like a really strong signal from collectors that they really want to own your work. And how do you feel as artists about what Johanna just said? Harm, you just said it in 2015, and you did things on your own, right? Then you stopped doing Left Gallery, which we all were sad about but could understand. And I want to thank you again for doing all of what you've done. It's amazing. So I'm wondering, how do you feel? Because that was the big, new thing, that artists could do things on their own, and now everyone is saying, oh, we need curators, and there's all these marketplaces. And do you feel that's a positive change again, or maybe not so much? How do you feel about that?
Well, very often people from the, let's say, traditional institutionalized art world complain about the quality of NFTs. And I think this is also because let's say Ethereum NFTs, it is one blockchain, and on this blockchain you will have, on OpenSea, you will have collectibles, and you will have artworks, and you will have popes or whatever, and it's all sharing the same space, and it's so random. And so there are a lot of initiatives. There's JPEG.space, for example. We'll have a show on Saturday. It's going to be fun at Rosa, and that is an attempt to allow people to curate selections, put things together, make combinations, make associations between works, and I think it really starts to become more solid and comes more to life. Yeah, and so yeah, curation is super important and also interesting. And it's also super fun to curate things and to highlight connections between different works by different people. So.
Well, I'll second that. I mean, I think that there's just so much volume in the NFT market that curation helps process the amount of information. But I think there was also something about the secondary market at the beginning of the question. There's a lot to respond to. And I would say that were I so lucky as to have a mutant garden cedar, I would never sell it. And I have had a kind of conflicted or unexpected relationship to the secondary market with my own projects, which do not have a large secondary market. But I have done one of my drops for my project off. Got a lot of attention and sold out very quickly. And then there were people flipping the NFTs from the project within minutes of buying them from me for, quite a bit more than they paid me. And at first I felt bad about that on some level, emotionally. But then I had the experience of being contacted by the people who had purchased the NFTs from the flippers, who were so excited to be part of the project. And I kind of felt like maybe actually the market was working. And despite its accelerated quality, it was getting the work to the people who wanted it the most.
Yeah, I can add to, does it work? I can also add to that. I mean, sometimes you miss out a project, right? And then you're quite happy that there's flippers. And I really loved how you what you said about flippers. There was a talk, I think that was 3 weeks ago, at Dam Gallery with you and Casey Rees, who started Feral File, a super interesting platform to collect art NFTs. And you were asked about flippers, and I think you can say best again how you called them. It was beautiful. I always quote that now. But
I think I said something like, because flippers have like a bad reputation, but I think I said something like flippers are really, really fast art dealers. They're like...
Yeah, and that's true. And I'm happy if I find a piece by a very fast art dealer, if I missed out a drop. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I can add something from, sorry, maybe Simon. Add something from the other side. It's we know, and I'm always referring to this traditional art world, and it sounds a little bit boring to always separate these two spaces in a way. But when you have a gallery and you have an artist that is having only a limited amount of artworks, and you have the possibility to decide which is the collector who gets the piece or which collections are the next to have it. This is something that I think is very interesting in the NFT sector. And I liked how you said it, Sarah. I also understand that the moment you let go and you can't decide whoever will have the next piece, because there is nobody who you work with, like a gallerist or somebody who tells you, yes, we know him for a while, and yeah, and he was really interested in your work, and he really knows what you're doing. This is all not happening. It's just one click, and somebody's there. And I think that is a new dynamic. And I've felt it very nice how you said that you're not afraid of it, because, and I think the same. It's a new thing, and it will evolve something out of that. And yeah, therefore I think it's very exciting.
Thank you, Simon. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think with my ownership experience with Stockholm Science, it was a little bit like that too. So there was there's been a number of different companies that sold out very quickly and then had a bit of a secondary market, and it was really interesting to see like how people treated being a part of those companies and owning those objects as a way of showing that they're a part of those companies. We had some people buying the kind of the CEO token, so to speak, who then did other things with groups that also bought those same company tokens. So, for example, another artist group, Terra Zero, bought funbug.com tokens. They were the CEO of that resurrected company by buying those NFTs. And then they released another project recently at Art Dubai, and they passed on in a kind of a lottery one of their founder tokens of that project to some of the other token holders of funbug.com. So it was really interesting ways that like ownership and I guess kind of ways of sharing things becomes more innovative. That would never happen with another project of mine. I'm also very experienced in the museum art world and the kind of gallery art world. In fact, the reason I'm not in the room is because I'm in Rome for the opening of an exhibition where I'm showing an exhibition version of Stockholm Seance at the Maxi Museum. And it's you don't get those same possibilities with holding other types of art assets. That's something really unique about the networked way that you can own and kind of pass things on with NFTs.
Thank you. I just got told we might hear you better if you take out your AirPods. Oliver from the organization team just told me that we might, because we hear you very badly in the space. If you take out your AirPods, the organizers say we might hear you better, but I'm not sure if that's possible for you because it looks like you're somewhere that it's not your home. So maybe we then... Okay, I think it might now be better. And Sarah and Harm, we've heard a lot about life forms and mutant garden seed. I guess it might be good if the two of you quickly say what your projects are and then maybe also what your learnings are. And Sarah, I guess you have a learning why you called yourself a blockchain. Zainin, I don't know if you want to say something about your upcoming project. I'm very excited about.
Anika won't let me not talk about that post that I made. So I guess maybe many of you know that my project Lifeforms, but many of you might not. So it's it's an NFT edition of blockchain-based lifeforms that need to be cared for like any living thing in order to stay alive. And the way that you care for them is within 90 days of receiving it, you have to give it away. So they're sort of questioning or opening up new avenues for what ownership could mean, maybe. And also, I think, interjecting dynamics that are perhaps contrary to what the NFT market expects NFTs to do or be like. And I've learned a lot from the project. I actually, my favorite thing is when people give away their life forms and they post about it, and I see them sort of looking for the next life form owner on Twitter or something, and then they like match each other. It's just the most heartwarming social media interaction ever. And when is social media heartwarming? But I do feel like sometimes, because my projects have been anti-speculative in some ways, or collaborative, or challenging ownership, that I get positioned as, maybe like redeeming the idea of NFTs towards people who might be critical of them. And, that's not something that I'm always fully resolved about myself, being in that role. So I've decided that I'm gonna make the most cursed form of blockchain project imaginable. I'm gonna make a PFP. So I kind of started joking about it, and then I decided to do it. So it's gonna be launching in late June at NFT NYC.
Can you say something about it already? I'm super excited. Can we get an alpha leak?
Yeah,
now?
so we're doing a custom card deck and the PFP is going to be delivered in the card deck like a loot box. The PFP is going to have some unexpected transfer mechanisms, and I think that's all I want to say right now.
Do people have to be at NFT NYC to get it? Because then I now need to book a ticket and a flight.
Well, they're going to be delivered with these physical objects, these custom card decks. Maybe, yeah, but I might still have some left that I'll be bringing back to Berlin with me. It's impossible to say at this time. It's a small edition. It's going to be only 150.
Okay, I consider booking a ticket to a flight today to get your PFP. One last question, maybe before. Sorry, Harm, for asking another question. How many life forms did you start with, and how many are still left? And yeah.
Oh, I always think before panels that I should refresh my numbers.
Sorry,
but I have not in about a month or so. But when I last looked, over almost 180 life forms had been created. Life forms are actually open mint all the time, and the edition is uncapped because so many of them are dying that, they're dying every day. And the life form population is not doing well. There's about like 80 of them, of the total created ones, which are still alive. The oldest ones were created actually as part of the exhibition with Simon, the Kunstverein in Hamburg, so since September of last year. And those life forms have now been passed 4 times.
very good. I hope we found some new caring life form holders and people who want to pass it on. I think Maria was she's in the audience from JPEG. Thank you, Maria, for joining us. I've also seen Mitchell Efshan. Thank you for joining us. I'm very sad that we can't all be together on this panel. And now I've dropped my iPhone. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Maria was really passionate about her life form. Now, sorry for, Please tell us more about Mutant Garden Theater. It's super exciting.
Yes, sure. So, some background. I think in my work, I've always been interested in change, learning systems, evolving systems, generative art, which has often a random component to generate imagery. And the interesting thing with blockchain is, of course, what blockchain gave us is for the first time that we have immutable data. So you actually have no change. Things are saved, they're stored, they're immutable. And I thought there was a kind of an interesting relation between generative art or evolving systems, which change, and then blockchain, which is immutable. So of course, as I thought, maybe I can make an NFT project that actually changes. So that kind of also defies the whole idea of an NFT to some extent, because if an NFT changes in its lifetime, it's also harder to give a monetary or economical appreciation of it. So Mutant Garden Cedar is a population of 512 plus 1, because I made a programming mistake. So it's 513. And
I thought that was the AP the whole time. Your artist proof.
Yeah, that was intentional. No.
Yeah.
No. So, and this NFT changes over time. There's every so many Ethereum blocks, there is a chance that it mutates. So it takes the previous state and then it mutates slightly, which means that some collectors who bought a very intricate, beautiful token now ended up with like a green square or something, like nothing there. So this also is kind of alters, the value of these things, which is also something I really wonder about, like what the dynamics are of that. And technically, I can say that there is sort of a sidechain running, or a daemon, a piece of software on a server that continuously every block calculates and it synchronizes to mainnet. And of course, the question of decentralization, like if this server breaks down, what's going to happen to the evolving NFTs? So people can also download a standalone desktop application that runs on their own computer, and they will also be able to then calculate all the mutations over time. So.
And if people now would like to collect your the Mutant Garden Cedar on the secondary market, you've just said it changes. And I've also seen a green one and a red one, and I think even a black one. So how do people know, oh, this is one that doesn't change, or this one will change, or are there ones that might stop changing? So are there any tricks to get a good one?
Yeah, well, the frequency that they mutate is with each one different. So some change once a year, some change every day. And this was also for the buyers, like really a question, like, do I want to have one that changes all the time? So there's a risk it might become more beautiful, but it could also lose its presence, or I buy a stable one. And it was interesting to follow the price development in that. And so each mutant has their own mutation frequency, which is a chance. So it's not guaranteed that it will mutate every year, but it has a chance that it mutates once a year.
And do you have any learnings from this project, from what collectors like, what they don't like, what works, when it comes to primary and secondary sales for what you're working on or what you've done after this project? And are we going to see a PFP from you?
No. The learnings, but this is more like a anthropological observation, like what do people visually or aesthetically like, and then I've made other projects that in which I try to figure that out, and my so far conclusion is that people like complexity, but they also like repetition and variation. So these are kind of really classic observations, actually, I think. So people are also more willing to pay more if more is going on in the image, which is interesting because the ones that turn completely into one color, we also have a whole history of monochrome paintings, and those are also valued very high. But.
Can I ask Karma a question?
Yeah, sure, you can.
You mentioned the downloadable desktop application that people can use to see the mutant garden seeders. I'm wondering, has anyone downloaded it, and can they like fast forward time ahead to see the future of a seeder and use this to choose which one they'll buy? Have you seen that happening?
That is a very good question, but that's technically not possible, because if a mutant mutates, it's dependent on the current block hash. And I don't know the block hashes that are going to occur, so I don't know how they will mutate either. Quite a lot of people have downloaded the application. I have so far limited the downloads of the applications to holders of the application, because the pooling of the block data every block is quite a lot of bandwidth. So it's quite expensive actually to have this thing running from my side. There is an Infura layer in between it. I might at some point allow people to connect to their own node. So that's also to aid in the decentralization aspect of that.
Simon, any learnings from you from doing .com sales and for your next project? And I also going to ask you that maybe stupid question. Are we going to see a PFP from you soon?
I kind of thought .com Science was a PFP, so maybe I'm confused about like genres, you know. I don't know, learnings. For me, it was, I guess for me the learning was more personal, that I really enjoyed the way that people interacted with work compared to things that I'd sold within the traditional kind of museum art world. And I just, I guess for me, noticing how major it was to watch people speak about things on Twitter, to watch people play with things. We even had a .com Science user from Funbug do a hackathon project at ETH Denver on top of one of the assets, and kind of propose a new game based on that. I guess for me it showed me the full potential of what could happen when you set up a scenario that is kind of networked with these assets. So I guess I actually don't have concrete future plans for another project in that space at the moment. I'm still kind of working with .com Sounds, because I think there's kind of quite a lot to do still with the potential of these companies. But yeah, I guess like learning how one can use that ownership and that identification that maybe PFP projects also have in different ways. You know, maybe it's not T-shirts and caps of Bored Apes. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I love merch. but there's very interesting things you can do if you set up the right story and connect people who are attracted to those stories and those images. Yeah.
And I think there's also a few mints available, right? So if someone wants one, you can mint for 0.1 ETH. Let's also.
Certain companies, there are there's like 20 companies, and I think, I don't know, something like 15 of them are gone, and then there's a few left of the remaining companies. As I say, it's weird. It was also interesting that some companies were very attractive to buyers and other companies were less interesting, apparently, which was something I didn't expect because they were all as interesting to me. We have companies like Cash Wars and Funbug that sold out immediately. Financialprinter.com also sold out immediately, but we have a rather large Wingspan Bank, which also is the largest number of assets in one company, which was like an early internet-first feeless bank, and that was possibly a little boring. I don't know, but it's a great thing. And actually, while I'm here in Rome, a couple of the companies that aren't minted out are on show at the Maxi Museum in kind of an installation view where viewers who walk in can also mint them. And so I'll show that. That's another iteration of these companies in a place where you can.
Great to hear that you keep working on the project and that we can expect more. Johanna, you've done the exhibition earlier this year, From Net Art to Art NFT. You're sort of like a traditional art world gallery, but at the same time, you're totally not. So I guess you have both people coming, or people from both worlds coming to the exhibition. And how was it for you when traditional art world collectors, saw the exhibition, got maybe interested in the work? How was that explaining it to them? And what are your experiences as a gallery working with collectors?
Yeah, so first of all, the exhibition that we had was a collaboration with Punk Gallery and with JPEG Space, and so it was an online part of it at JPEG Space, and physically on screens at Punk Gallery and parallel at our space here in Berlin in Office Impart in Moabit. And it was really interesting because we showed digital pieces on a screen that were sold then again through a wallet on Ethereum. So everybody who did not have a wallet was not able to buy a piece at the beginning. So it wasn't about prices and it wasn't about collecting at the beginning when people entered the space. And I think that was, on one hand, a very positive effect because it was more about talking about the pieces, speaking about, and that was the whole show. That was about digital art and generative art. But so all the 9 artists that were part of the show did work with technology and possibly blockchain before NFTs were there to collect art. And so there was a tradition of digital art that we were talking about, and the final thing was that you would be able to get a piece through a wallet. So I think that was the one thing with the barrier, that you needed to be part of this at least wallet situation to be part of the NFT or art NFT collecting system. So yeah, if as soon as you have overcome this this moment of having a wallet, then there was this next level of appreciation, because you realized, okay, I got to understand what the artist is doing, or what how the artist work, and then there was this next step that you actually wanted to become an owner of the piece. And I think this is so interesting because and we always have that very often, there were a few people who, let's say, are very traditional art collectors with physical pieces and totally get what they see and totally understand that's about the artist and the piece and maybe the concept. And then they are hooked and then they want to own it, and they don't make a difference between physical or digital art piece. That's, I think, is most incredible, yeah.
Funny thing is that I find my NFT collection a bit more interesting, maybe only right now, than the paintings, and I don't even know why. Maybe because things really change, or because you have a painting, it's a painting, but with NFTs they change. You have sort of a community, you have people you can speak with, like you've just said on Twitter, for example, and I find that really exciting.
I would love to add something, because I think that's the big thing, and that's what we are experienced the way that collectors connect with each other. And I said it, what we found out. Yeah, now it's working. No, with both. Okay. What we also got to see at the Art and Tech Report, these communities play an important role, and the communities, I think it's like I try always to compare it with Instagram, where we can like an image of an artist or like what the artist does, and when we do this in the crypto space, we buy a piece. And I think this is how we get in touch with each other, and this is exciting, checking out what the others are getting and having in their wallets. And this transparency is really exciting for being a collector, and probably also for engaging with the community as an artist.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that question. How is it for you as artists? Because on the one hand, I assume it's positive for you not having a middleman, or sometimes it's called a gatekeeper, and someone does like many things for you. Yeah, I was just wondering, is it a good or a bad thing? And and I mean, you're basically everything, right? You're the artist, you're the accountant, you're the PR person, you're the salesperson. You're basically everything in one person. And so, how is the relationship with your collectors?
And the technical team and the tech support.
I'm sorry for forgetting things. You're probably even more crazy.
I think a lot of people say this all the time. There's no gatekeepers, and actually I think there are many gatekeepers, and there's new kinds of gatekeepers, and I love some of them and some I don't, but it's too much to do it all on your own. But I think it depends a lot on the market that you're targeting. Like if I make, let's say, a sculpture, which I haven't done for a while now, but I used to do that. Let's say this sculpture sells for 20,000 euro, and you only have one, then it's really good to have a gallerist who is going to find the best goal or the destination for that. And of course, for the galleries to be able to do that, this galleries needs to make money. So I think the 50-50 cut in that situation is actually totally fine. If you have a PFP project and you have, I don't know how many there are, but let's say if there's 1,000 and they sell for relatively little, the overhead in finding buyers for that would not make sense to charge 50%. I mean, people can find them on their own. So it's depending on the price and the destination of it. And I work, like when we still ran Left Gallery, we had a lot of people approaching us and with like, can we show our work here? At some point we opened it up, but for a while it was strictly curated. So I actually was a gatekeeper, and with that we could like have a particular idea or a particular style or a particular direction what we wanted to show. And this is also what gatekeepers can do. They curate, they filter out what should not be shown. The big question is like, what percentage should these new gatekeepers have? Should it be the 50-50 like in the traditional art world, or when artists? And I wonder this. I would collaborate a lot with brick and mortar galleries, and to some extent they support the NFT projects as well. And we are figuring out new ways to combine these two worlds. Yeah.
Sarah, would you like to add something, or Simon? I mean, I quite like how when you've done a new project and you approached me and said, "Do you want to look at it?" and so on and so on. So I really like the direct contact. Yeah. Simon, do you have anything to add to because you're represented by quite a big gallery, and now you're doing the NFTs on your own. Is that sort of different for you? I mean, you're also everything now, but I guess you also have a studio. So I guess you have maybe a bit more work, but how is it for you now, being in touch with collectors?
I mean, I've always been in touch with collectors, and but I think for me, I really like lots of different actors being involved in my practice. It's never been a problem for me. It's always been a good thing, because they help. You know, there's lots of things to do in this position. And there's lots of keeping relationships going, finding people, finding places. And I always enjoy working with people, which is one of the reasons why, as primarily an artist, I also enjoy curating, is because I like to be in touch with other people with different skill sets, and also why I make collaborative work quite often, as is .com Sales. I just really like other people's skill sets, and I learn from them, and I enjoy working with them. So actually, for me, doing everything on my own is not really a positive thing. And I also have a studio with wonderful people working with me in the studio. And yeah, so I would like to see actually the NFT infrastructure, the intermediaries, evolve more, because I would prefer to be more involved with people. I'm really excited about projects like Ham mentioned, JPEG, and I know all of I think most of the people on the stage have worked with JPEG already, but like I think it's great when there can be people to do that work, so that I can focus on other things that I'm good at. I think not everybody's good at everything, and I think when there's a bit more fleshed out infrastructure for artists, we'll probably can't manage all of these entrepreneurial, programming, social things. We'll also be able to just focus on producing work, and other people who are really great at presenting and making connections with work can also do that work. So, and I also think that's not anti-Web3 narratives, it's actually pro-Web3 narratives, because these things can be decentralized. They don't need to be centralized in one position, one kind of all-rounder.
Thank you, Simon. I guess we're close to having to finish. And I guess there's some artists in the audience, and because when I speak with artists or collectors, then they or sometimes say, "Oh, I didn't know that." Have you also had that experience? And what's your advice for artists? I mean, because all of you are quite established. You've been very early on, learned a lot. You've seen a lot. You've seen a lot of marketplaces come and go. So what's your advice for artists who want to get started in the space, maybe build up a community? What's the best way also to choose a partner and to choose a marketplace? What do you have to keep in mind as an artist? A tricky question, I know.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have I think the biggest thing I would say for someone starting with NFTs is, there's a sense where you are your community manager and PR team, and I would say be patient and keep going. I would also say that maybe this is a little bit related to what we were talking about the last question, is that I'm also a software developer, and I'm the one-person dev team on all my own projects, which is exhausting sometimes. But also, if you're an artist getting started, it's like an amazing superpower to not need to hire a developer and pay them the market rate for their time. If I had to do that for any of my projects, they wouldn't exist.
And I completely agree, but I also think if you're a developer yourself, you get to make artistic decisions during development, and you don't have to first figure the whole thing out, and then so you're more flexible. I get inspired a lot by coding, so I'm sure you do too. My advice to aspiring NFT artists is just try to make good work. And also to some extent, an NFT is just a piece of technology that defines ownership. I mean, it can do so many more things you can, as also your projects are, but to some extent also it is just a certificate of authenticity. So just focus on the work. I also don't think that all digital art needs to be an NFT. That's maybe a hot take, but some installation art, some digital installation art, I don't know, does it make sense to have an NFT for 5-channel video installation? I don't know. So yeah, technically, I really like what I see on the going on the Tezos blockchain now with FX Hash and Fursum. I have not yet engaged with that, but I find it very friendly somehow. It also seems that this is the only blockchain currently in the crash that is still doing well. So
FX Hash flipped art blocks in terms of sales last week.
yeah.
They're really going strong. I highly recommend looking at it.
So now I have to learn Haskell, I think. But and where was I? Yeah. Yeah, I actually don't know so much about it, but I've been more researching it lately because I'm really coming from Solidity. You know, I have sort of a PFP project coming up, and it's fully on chain. It's a full it's animated SVG in Solidity. So I was flexing there a bit to see if I could do it. It's going to be mostly an airdrop for holders of other projects of mine. May I just put that out there? It will launch in like a month or so, but yeah.
Great. Simon, maybe also an advice from you, and then we have Johanna with a gallery perspective, and then questions. So if you have questions, please think about them. We ask you soon.
Oh, can you restate the question? There was a bit of a choppy moment.
Sorry, your advice, do you have an advice for aspiring NFT artist, as Harm just said it?
I'm sure Harm has better advice than me. I would say just do something that you think is interesting and fun, and the rest will come. That's always what I tell artists, NFT or not. I think it's always about making connections with people who are doing interesting things and getting involved with them. That's what art's about for me.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I actually have to agree to all three comments already, because first of all, NFT is a technology that you can use to make fantastic work and use it, but not all digital work needs blockchain technology or NFTs to be existing. And I think there's one thing that now the whole world knows the word NFT, or let's say almost everyone, and therefore a lot of people now know digital art exists, among other mediums such as sculpture or painting. So yeah, do good work and sell it. At the end, you will find a distribution for it. Might it be blockchain NFTs or something that will come that we don't know yet? I think as a gallery, for us, it's always important. We work with a lot of digital artists, but we also work with physical artists. And at the end, we also, from our perspective, and is it a curated or subjective perspective, but we also look for aspiring and inspiring artists, and that is what counts. And I like that you said patience, because although everybody talks about NFTs and making a lot of money, I think patience is one very important thing that everybody needs to have if they enter. And of course, I have to just say, everybody who wants to know more about the Art and Tech Report, we are having a panel tomorrow at 10 a.m. downstairs on the stage. So I shouldn't forget that.
I guess also everyone on stage has been patient, right? I mean, we're all doing digital art and things since many years, and what might look to people like a sudden success has been hard work for Harm, for example. So I guess you're the one who has been very patient and who has put in a lot of work, so thank you again for that. And do we have questions from, yes, we have questions, like, I guess you need a mic, right? Or is there someone back?
Thank you to all. It was very enlightening. David Rodriguez from aesthetic.com. We kind of have no-code tools for NFT creators. And one thing we continue to run into is that artists don't want to market themselves. And you guys have all done a tremendous job, that slow grind, being able to build up this following, getting collectors and so on and so forth. But one distinct tactic that has worked for you in being able to draw attention to your art. We see a lot of attempts at airdrops and pre-sales and things to try to continue to, create interest and hype and monetary arbitrage. But I'm curious, as a marketing tactic, what's worked for you?
I think over the years I've enjoyed social media because each time I would be sitting alone in my studio and have this moment of like, oh, I made something that actually I kind of think it might be something, like posting that on the internet, on social media, publishing it, and then making the people who are following you sort of part of this creative process and to let them share the excitement. I think I'm not sure because I'm on this side, I'm not on the other side, but I think sharing your process makes people enthusiastic about it, and I think that's been my maybe best marketing.
I think I'm actually quite bad at marketing, but but I guess another thing that's been helpful to me as an artist is like learning to love rejection. Like I used to celebrate my rejections from things I applied for. I'd be like, yes, my annual rejection from this thing that I don't know. So for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, I think marketing's a very specific way of framing things, but I think it's really important to think about it in some ways. And I guess my response is going to echo what I said about what makes what advice I would give anybody doing NFTs. And I think the best type of marketing is being sometimes. But I think if you know the type of people who find you more interesting, then
Simon, we lost you for a second.
Going and finding out, sharing projects. Oh,
Simon, we lost you. You said.
I think delay.
Do you hear us? Because we didn't hear you. You were frozen when you were marketing is important, and then you were gone, and it felt like a rug pull from you.
Oh, I see why the rug pull comment then. Okay. Yeah, no, I was just saying the best being close to people and projects that you're really excited about and sharing it with those people who care about it. Oh, lol. I'm gonna give up.
You got rocked again. So please share your insights with us on Twitter afterwards. We're all going to check on Twitter what you had to say, okay? Because you were frozen the second or third time. So please, we need your advice on Twitter. Yeah, I think that was the second question from the audience. And then I guess lunch for all of us. And yeah, all of us hang on Twitter like 24/7. So if you have further questions, just join us on Twitter. We are there all the time.
So, Fraunhofer Institute of Open Communication Systems, you're also doing NFT research at our institute. Do you think from the artistic and also the technological point of view it makes sense to introduce divisibility in NFTs, like have multiple owners and divisible ownership?
So if I understand the question correctly, is it interesting from an artistic and technological perspective to have shared ownership of NFTs?
Right.
Yeah, it certainly makes some really expensive NFTs affordable by a group. I kind of like Party DAO, and the excitement that you see all this curse is also really well designed. I think I participate in some Party DAOs, and then in the end you end up with an ERC20 token specific for that share of that artwork. And I found owning that a lot less exciting than the bidding itself. So in the end you end up with a shared thing, but it's really a question of what does it really mean? I like the ERC 1155 standard where you can have works in editions. With Left Gallery we used to do editions, most of the time just 100. It seems that most collectors are not really interested so much in having one of multiple similar ones, and also the algorithmic nature of digital art. Very often it's not really actually necessary to have them all identical. So, because in a way 1155, the smart contract standard is in a way also, it feels a bit like shared ownership if you have multiple people owning the same thing. So I am personally most excited about unique works, and yeah, like I said, owning an ERC20 token that represents a share in something, I found that less exciting than the actual bidding on that platform.
Thank you.
Maybe I can just add that of course the uniqueness is maybe in general this excitement of collecting, to have it yourself and alone, and maybe this is also why NFTs and in the blockchain technology is the one that is everybody talking now about, this uniqueness.
Yeah, please all go on Twitter. We get his precious advice about marketing on Twitter. And Sarah, would you like to add something, or otherwise we head straight into the lunch break?
Well, I don't want to keep us late, and especially not from food. But for what it's worth, and for me and the way I approach ownership dynamics with my own NFT projects is, I think shared ownership is very interesting. But the mechanics that surround the token follow actually from the ideas of the work, not the other way around. So, I mean, for me, if I were doing that, it would be like the subject matter as well.
Simon, would you like to add something? Shared ownership. Have you heard the question? I guess the past minutes you had tech issues.
Yeah, I think I missed quite a lot of that question. So we'll leave my legendary rug pull as my answer in advance of it happening. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for joining us. We're going to see 2 PFP projects, one from Harm, one from Sarah. We're going to see no PFP project from Simon, but he thinks .com Science is one. It's going to evolve. Work is available. Please take care of the live forms, get some live forms, and you're going to do more exhibitions. And thank you for the NFT tech report. You can find it online. Thank you. Lunch break.
Thank you, Jennifer.